You probably know about the European Championship and Copa America soccer, or football if you're British, games going on right now. And while soccer, or football if you're British, is a great game, it's just not American enough. You see, soccer, or football if you're British, is too continuous of a game. Where else can I put my ads for that sweet, sweet capitalism? I couldn't stand for this. I need that football craze now. I'll be using Python and Pygame to create a bobble football game that tries to emulate the original game as much as possible. So, let's get right into it. Oh yeah, from here on out, football means American football. For your British people out there, just replace every football I say to rugby or something. Alright, the first thing we need to do is build the field. As you can see, it's quite large. And after some big brain mathematics, I finally realized that we'll need to make the field a bit more thick. So, here we go. With our players on the field, we can now start giving them commands. Now, if you're a Discord mod like me, you're probably familiar with Bobble League. We'll implement that same system, where we pull back and drag in order to fire the orbs. There we go. These arrows look a bit small though. Let's make them a bit bigger. Yes, much better. Everything is going according to plan. Now, because good game design is important or something, let's add color indicators to show how powerful your shot is. Now that everything in terms of firing is correct, we have to get to the actual bobbling. There's a bunch of complicated math and physics that goes behind it that I'm too lazy to understand. Here it is if you want to try and big brain it. But all I really should need to do is Control C and Control V it, and there. Now, let's go and test it and see if it works. Okay, so evidently that didn't go so well. Let's use the firing system we made earlier, and now we can actually control them live. Okay, so it's looking better, but look at that. All the red ones are seeming to pair up. Somehow these red circles have more mating opportunities than I do. In order to fix this, we'll need to use some science. See those two numbers up there? Basically, we'll need to assume stuff about our collisions here. First, they have to be elastic, meaning that this KE number should remain the same after each collision. Next, by the conservation of momentum, this piece should stay the same. Nerd! Shut up. Alright, if you were curious, the reason I was wrong was because I had my directions reversed. But anyways, I've singularly fixed physics. So, let's now get on to the fun part, actually making the game. Essentially, the game will have two phases, the planning phase and the actual game phase. The game is two players on one device, so we'll need transition phases so players can't see the other's plan, although the defenders will get a hint. The attackers will always go first, and then defenders. Then after that, the plans will commence and the game will play out. And that'll look something like this. And after the attackers finish their planning, they can finish their move to pass control, in which the defenders will then play. They will also get a hint as to how the attackers are moving so they're not clueless as to defense. Once the defenders have chosen a game plan, both plans are revealed, and after a second, the plans are executed. Okay, so a plan is great, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't have balls. After all, the game is about handling and throwing around balls. So far, all we have are players with no balls, so let's add balls into the game. They won't have any physics applied to them, since last I checked, footballs don't bounce off people. That would hurt. And just like that, we have balls in our game. Okay, I'll stop using that joke, it's getting old. It has an invincibility period at first, but then after a second, it can be picked up by any player within its range. Now, let's add the lines based on ball location. What are the lines, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. A football game is played on a 100-yard field, or about 91 meters for all you guys out there not using freedom units, where you go 10 yards or about 9 meters at a time. You have 4 attempts called downs to make these 10 yards to get a first down, which resets the counter. You can gain yardage by getting the ball forward, by throwing it, or running it. If a team is unable to get across the line in 4 attempts, or if the other team steals the ball, the turn shifts over to the other team, and attackers or defenders switch. To score points, a player must take it to their team's end zone, which will score a touchdown, which is 6 points and +1 or +2 depending on what you do next. Since most teams opt for the +1 option, for the sake of simplicity, a touchdown is 7 points in the game. A field goal is if a team is able to kick the ball into these huge yellow brackets and is worth 3 points. For our game, if the ball gets in this end zone without a player, it'll count as a field goal. Oh, looks like Past Me is done coding. Let's see what he cooked up. As you can see, the ball's location determines the line of scrimmage, and the red team is trying to make it down the field, and the blues are trying, or at least should be, stopping them. The black banners that are popping up tell us the state of the team in getting those 10 yards. The down first, and then the yards to go until they get to the line of scrimmage. Oh, and it looks like the red team failed to get it within 4, so the blues will now get the ball. Now, let's talk about time. A game is split into 4 15-minute quarters, but because my attention span has been destroyed by Subway Surfers, it'll just be 3-minute quarters instead. At the end of each quarter, the teams switch sides, and whoever was on the left goes right, and vice versa. And at the half, play completely stops and resets, meaning you might give up possession of the ball at the half, even if you should have retained it. For most games, there is no overtime, and ties are rare, unlike a certain other sport I can think of. Now, we've invented time. You can see the game clock in the upper left, and it's reiterated in the main game. I think it looks pretty good, and when the quarter ends, it's right there, and properly switches the direction of the field. Now, the core game is done. So, let's add the cosmetics. First, we'll redesign this ugly top banner, and add some instructions. So you might ask, why instructions? Well, considering it's taken me more than 10 minutes to explain the game, I think some instructions aren't in order for the new players. And here they are, just for a refresher. So after that, I added a title screen. You know, one of the greatest joys of coding is not writing lines of code, it's deleting them. Yes, all that code and hard work, gone. So clean, so wow. But in all seriousness, it's to create this dummy field which will function as the background. And just like that, the game is done with title and ending screens. I think I really like the way it turned out, and for the first time, even you get to play it. Application downloads and source code will be linked in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.